We'll get there. It's good to be here this morning. We missed last week being here, being in Birmingham. It's good to be back home. It's good to be here today. It's good to see everybody this morning. Is everybody happy to be here? All smiling faces. It is a good thing. John asked me to open service this morning and open with a scripture and take our prayer requests. And as I go to the scripture, think about prayer requests this morning. Think about the needs not only we have, but others. You know, yesterday I had a friend fell over and he took him to the hospital and said he had a bad valve in his heart. You know, he was doing quite well the other day, and yesterday he fell over. You know, we never know from day to day who, what, where, when, or why. Don't know those things. So as I go to the verse of Scripture, and it kind of relates this morning a little bit to prayer requests. It kind of ties together. John asked me to read Scripture this morning. It's going to be something you need to research a little bit to think about. It's in Mark 9 and 25. Actually, the verse of Scripture here we're all familiar with, and it was casting out a demon out of a person, and other people had dealt with the issue, and other people had tried, and they'd had a lot of problems for a long time. And in this issue, everybody understands what happened, but I'm going to read it to you and make a comment on it that should give you some insight. I'm going to start at 24. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said, with tears, Lord, I believe. Help mine unbelief. John just preached on this a week or so ago. When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit. That's what I'm focusing on. Thou dumb and deaf spirit. I charge thee to come out of him and to enter no more into him. Speaking to those deaf and dumb spirits. And first of all, dumb. That today when we talk to people about issues and we use the term dumb, the translations and the understanding of the true meaning of dumb is this spirit here is contrite spirit, but the deafness of it. Who could speak to a deaf person? You can talk all day and never get a word across. You can speak all day to a deaf person and they'll look at you and smile, wave. It takes the intervention of the Spirit. Christ spoke to it in the Spirit. You know, and those two words, deaf and dumb, and spirit. We're talking to things in prayer request, and it's going to take spirit and our unbelief to make it work. We ask for a lot of prayers. Over the past year or so, we can sit and readily think of dozens and dozens and dozens of prayer requests that we've had. Speaking out against those spirits, speaking out against those issues that we know that we can't deal with it. Just like the family here, even the disciples themselves couldn't deal with it because they had to deal with it in a spiritual level. Praying and fasting, Jesus said, praying and fasting first. Being physically and spiritually strengthened to be able to deal with it. See how that affects us today as a people, that when we ask for prayer requests, we're going against the Spirit. And we need to be able to have the power through our beliefs that God's going to move mightily. Spiritual request is what we ask for. It's not a physical thing. You can't go down to Walgreens and buy $1 worth of faith. If you could, it'd be a line down there a mile long. And you can't go anywhere else and get a whole sack full of belief. Ain't a sack that big. Think about it. But it's spiritual warfare that we fight. It's spiritual strengths that we have to have. It's through our spiritual faith and beliefs that we accomplish that we're told we can do. So now getting into prayer requests, when we ask for prayer requests, when we ask for these things, we should have an understanding that it's not just something on the side we got. No, it's not. It's that faith and spiritual strength and our abilities through Christ to get those things across. So this morning, remember Gary Lawhorn, as he's in the hospital, and we ask for healing. That's what we ask for. Remember my family. Remember my son. Remember my oldest son. He still needs another job. The job he got, he lost. That door closed. There'll be another open. Yeah. But all around us, we're fighting a spiritual warfare. And the example set forth here for us by Christ himself demonstrated the exactness of how we have to approach these situations. When you're going into a battle or going into a warfare, the general's going to call you up there and you're going to say, now wait a minute, Amos, there's 10 of them. You need this. It's the same deal. Jesus equipped us for the battles by telling us how to do it. We just need to do it. And do it in the exactness of how we're taught. We can't add anything into it. Amos goes into a spiritual battle, he'll say, oh, that's all right, for 10, I got something I can handle it with. No. You do it by the mannerisms that you're taught and trained. Christ taught us to do it this way, so that's how we need to do it. He set an example how to do it. So in spiritual things, spiritual warfare, I think his example is better. So prayer request this morning. Who's got spoken requests?
Let's remember Colin. She's still having issues with that ankle twisted fracture. But she's still in a wheelchair, as a matter of fact. And so let's remember her. Let's remember the upcoming elections. The early voting has already started. So we've got several opportunities to go and vote during the issues of the course of the country. Pray for those that elected us to exercise their privilege to vote.
Yeah, let's do those things that we have rights to do. Let's do those things. That's important. Be in prayer for our situation. There's a lot of things happening. We probably living in a historical part of America's history right now. And some of us really don't see the historical events taking place around us. But the most historical events that we can participate in are those events that we ask for in faith and believing that God's going to deliver. And that's our prayers and prayer requests. Ernest Youngblood's in a hospital in Dallas, Texas. I don't think anybody in here, except maybe my wife's met him one time. Well, I don't think anybody in this room has met Ernest Youngblood. He's a very prominent businessman here in Knoxville. Very wealthy, very influential person. But he called me from the hospital in Dallas, Texas, and asked me to be sure and put him in for prayer. because he believes in prayer. He firmly believes it. It's only prayer is going to save him from his condition. And I told Ernest, I said, Ernest, we'll keep you on our prayer list, and we'll keep praying for you, and we'll do that. And all those about us. Any other spoken requests?
My dad got to go home from the hospital. They gave him some medicine. They ran some tests. He had a little overnight stay there, and he needs to work until April in his own budget and in his own mindset and everything that he's got going on. And I pray that God will let him come through this and let him do what he wants to do and what he needs to do to go forward to do what he needs to do till April. And after that, he can kind of take it easy a little bit. So I'm praying for two things this morning. Praying for, healing and God's will that he needs to do, what he wants to do and needs to do as a person. My father's a hard-working man, and it's starting to tell him. He's starting to get to an age where it's starting to tell him a little bit. And he knows he's got to slow down, but I want him to work until he dies. That's what he's telling me. So I want to work until I'm dead. And so, if God wants to let him do it, let's let him do it. He don't want to slow down. So, Dad's just not that kind of person. So I just want to pray that God gives him the ability and the strength to do that.
The Lord's still in charge. God's still in charge. Any other prayer requests?
I have a praise report and a prayer request. One of the girls at work, I think that I requested prayer for her maybe 3 or 4 months ago. She was having trouble there in her marriage, and they were doing counseling and stuff. He just all of a sudden, said, I want to try to work through it, and he's done like a 360 change, and they're doing great, and you can tell the change in her. It's just it's a good thing. I want to praise God for that.
Yeah.
It's, something that didn't help them.
Your presence has made a big change there. There was a 360-degree change there. That's the substance of things hoped for. The evidence of things unseen. We know what faith is, but your presence has made a difference there. I bet all those people that was in that congregation there when Jesus called that deaf and dumb spirit out of that person, I bet all them people around there looking on like they do today, I bet they thought, boy, he's really changed. Presence.
And also a prayer request for her now. Friday she was really sick, and she went to the emergency room. She's got kidney stones. So she's in really bad pain, and she's running a really high fever, and there's not much they can really do. They give her a little bit of medicine to help the pain and everything, and hoping that she'll pass the kidney stones, but she's really sick.
Will you be seeing her this week?
Maybe Monday. I don't know. I'll find out today whether or not she's coming to work Monday. So,
Come give her a prayer cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah, come up and give her a prayer cloth. Your very presence there in the situation makes a difference. It does in all of us, irregardless of who we are. Your very presence makes a difference in people. There's a lot of people that look to us, look to you, look to this congregation, and we don't even know it. We have not a clue until somebody tells us, or later on somebody comes back and says, I asked that congregation to pray for me and I was healed. Or I asked so-and-so to lift us up in prayer and things really made a difference. Or I asked and things happened. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. The evidence of things unseen is that thing that you've seen that happened that only God's hand could have done it. It wasn't the doctor's, it was God's hand. That spirit speaking to it come out of that person, that spirit. Any other spoken requests? Any unspoken? Everybody in here would have unspoken requests. Both hands ought to be up. It ought to look like a real holiness meeting. It really should. Because we all got a lot of requests this morning. Let's all come this morning and be in prayer for these prayer requests, but let's do a prayer cloth so she can physically hand it to them with the authority of these prayers. Where's Joel?
According to faith. By faith and through faith. It is healed. Lord, Lord, the light is shining who loves God cares, and God who's able to change situations, to change hearts, to change lives. Lord, we give you praise for this morning. Thanks. This young blood of God is being touched this call. Lord, let it be like you're in that hospital room, touching, feeling even that precious anointing, the blood of Jesus Christ that brings healing to all would be upon you. God, that you see that you're in heaven. Jesus, who's through you.